Okay, hi people. We're going to be talking about the venous drainage of the face and scalp. As you can see, I just drew this. This is the diagram, but this is kind of confusing. Let me just first explain you over here. Okay, so the venous drainage starts with the supratrochlear and the supraorbital veins. Supratrochlear is somewhere on your forehead, and the supraorbital is above your eye orbits. So they both drain into the angular vein, which goes down till the tip of your nose, and below the tip of your nose it turns into the facial vein. The facial vein then goes along and comes here where it joins another vein. This vein is the retromandibular vein. As you can see, from the superficial temporal part comes the superficial temporal vein. This is the temporal part of the skull. So we have the superficial temporal vein over here, and this is the maxilla, and from here the maxillary vein comes. They both drain into the retromandibular vein. Now the retromandibular vein has an anterior portion which goes anteriorly, and the posterior portion which goes backwards. So the anterior portion joins with the facial vein coming, and they form the common facial vein, which later drains into the internal jugular vein, which is coming from the head region down to the neck. It drains into the internal jugular vein. Here, the posterior part of the retromandibular vein comes behind the auricle, that is the ear, and joins the posterior auricular vein. The posterior auricular is coming from behind the ear, as you can see, and it joins the posterior part of the retromandibular vein. This is so called because it's near the mandible, as you can see. Yeah, so they both join and they both form the external jugular vein. Now the external jugular vein drains into the subclavian vein. The subclavian vein is coming from the brachium, that is the arm. It is coming from your arms, your upper limbs. Basically, it is bringing the blood from your upper limbs. And so the external jugular vein joins the subclavian vein, and then it drains directly into the brachiocephalic vein, and so does the internal jugular vein drain into the brachiocephalic. Brachiocephalic is so called because cephalic means head, brachio means brachium. That means the veins coming from the brachium arm, and the cephal, the head. So that's why it's called the brachiocephalic. Then the brachiocephalic of that side drains into the superior vena cava, which goes into the right atrium. And from the other side also the brachiocephalic comes, and it also drains into the superior vena cava and into the right atrium. Now if you see the picture, we can see here are the supraorbital vein. See, you can see this is the forehead region, supraorbital, and this is supratrochlear. They both join and they drain and they form the angular vein over here. And then below the tip of the nose they form the facial vein. As you can see, the facial vein goes down, and it joins the retromandibular vein. You can see the retromandibular vein over here. It is coming from the superficial temporal vein over here, from the temporal region. It is coming over here, and the maxillary from over here, and they would join to form the retromandibular vein. And the retromandibular vein's anterior part joins the facial vein to form the common facial vein, which joins into the internal jugular vein. And the posterior part of the retromandibular joins behind the auricle. This is the ear, as I had explained over here. Posterior auricular comes from the back of the ear. So similarly, the posterior auricular vein comes from back of the ear, and it joins the retromandibular vein, and which is cut over here. This is the external jugular vein. I'll show you. see, this is the internal jugular vein coming, and this is the external jugular vein, and this joins the subclavian vein, which is coming from the arm, as you can see, and this becomes the brachiocephalic veins, and then it becomes the superior vena cava right over here. So this is easy, isn't it? How it's coming. As I had said over here, the internal jugular also drains into the brachiocephalic. Similarly, the internal jugular also drains into the brachiocephalic, and this is the subclavian part, and this is the brachiocephalic, and this is the superior vena cava. This is the brachiocephalic from the other side coming, and the both sides brachiocephalic join to form the superior vena cava. So this is the venous drainage of the face and scalp, and we are done over here. Laters.